Yeah, tell us how you came on this very interesting path. It's not, at least before I met you, I never thought about people who had PhDs in engineering working at a food and beverage company. So do tell us. I'm sure I'm not the only one wondering about that.
No, I was wondering about that too. So I went to Georgia Tech. I did my PhD and master's both from there in material science and engineering. And I was working on how do you make DVDs and CDs much cheaper? How do you store information on that in a much cheaper way so an everyday man could do it? So I really thought I was going to go work in Texas Instruments or Intel or places where we think about silicon wafers, because a lot of my work in PhD was wearing that clean room suit where you see people in white overalls and masks and gloves and everything else. I was actually PepsiCo and Frito-Lay. They came to our campus recruiting fair, and I was just walking around all the tables. And quite frankly, Koshi, I had the same question for them. They're like, "Hi, we're PepsiCo. Would you like a snack?" And I was like, "Yes." They're like, "Are you interested?" And I was like, "Why do you need me?" It was a question. My life is based on questions, sometimes good and sometimes annoying, but I feel never stupid. It was a very respectful question to say, "Hey, I'm struggling to see why would you need a PhD to make potato chips, because you take a potato, you peel it, you cut it, and you fry it. I could do that at home." And they blew my mind. As you saw the slide I had, oh my God, how much chemistry and science and mathematics that goes into it. But the simple explanation they gave me at the career fair was to say, look, potato is a natural raw material. It's an agricultural product. Every potato in every climate grows differently. But when you taste a Lay's potato chip, pretty much everywhere nationally you can pick up a potato chip in a Lay's bag and it tastes the same. It has that same crunch. Now that takes engineering, because you're taking something that is very different, but you're using science and math. Oh my God, frying or baking, there is so much math and science that goes into even baking cookies the same way. So there's a little bit of art to it, but there's a lot of science and technology to it. It just blew my mind. I'm like, oh God, what a fantastic opportunity to work somewhere where I actually love the product and I can eat the product. And whatever I do, everybody has a perspective about it. Like I can't go on a flight, because I'm a chatty person, if you haven't picked up by now. Like flights and things with random strangers, as soon as I say I work for Frito-Lay or I made the next flavor of Lay's, everybody has an opinion about my job. I love it. It's a conversation starter.
Lynn, question for you. Your early career started as a biotech researcher. You now lead a growing network of public growth schools. How did you choose this path? And also tell us about EarthX and EarthX TV. How can middle schoolers get involved?
Sure, I'd love to. One thing I wanted to tag on before I answer the question is I think the biggest thing when I think back to my own upbringing, and I think like most of the panelists, we were from a generation where girls didn't do math and science as much. And as a parent who really encouraged that, I was lucky to have a dad that was a mathematician and encouraged it when my sisters played with baby dolls and I was out collecting bugs and building ramps and things. So I think just encouraging, like Koshi said, I think that's a lot. And to just never let down. If that's what you want to do, just continue to stay curious and continue to do what you love. Because you can have a very diverse career, which will lead me to answering your question. I was hired by New England Biolabs. I was employee 75. It's now a 500-person company. I did research. I moved to Boston, and then they moved me to Dallas for business development. And because I think they realized outside of research, I also could communicate and understood how to position our company and how we were growing. So went about setting up distributorships and subsidiaries all over the United States for New England Biolabs. And I bet Mott has used some of the products that New England Biolabs carries, restriction enzymes, DNA modifying enzymes, went all the way to Latin America. And anyway, I did that for about 25 years. And when I was in Dallas, I was also very interested in volunteerism, giving back, being civically engaged, saying yes to things that if I was curious about it and someone asked me to help, I would say yes. And so a piece of advice to answer when I'm answering this question is to say yes more than you say no. If you're curious about it, because you just never know where life is going to take you. So I got to know one of the senators that was the champion for the legislation that led to it being legal for there to be single gender public education through some of my volunteer and civic work. And when this position with Young Women's Prep Network came up about 8 years ago, she called me, and she'd worked with me, and she'd seen me chair board meetings and chair campaigns and projects. And she said, I know that you're doing this professionally, but you've got all the skills to run this. And so I put my CV in, and I was hired. And I went about using my STEM brain to grow the network. The network is now 10 very strong public all-girls schools, 5,000 girls in our network. All of our schools are on U.S. News and World Report Best of. And so really using that STEM, asking the question, working to improve whatever was not, where it needed to be, using all those building blocks that I had in me. And it's been just the most remarkable thing. So I'd say it was kind of a second career and a very rewarding career. I also am very involved in EarthX, so I'm going to address some of the climate change things that I'm seeing right now. In EarthX, we launched EarthX TV recently. It's a streaming channel, and it's programming that brings, again, like I said, all sides together, focusing on, sustainable solutions for our environment. One of the programs that we have is called Climate 911 Youth Reports, and we have got youth climate activists and young scientists that interview politicians and different policymakers, because we know that it's a big issue, and it's going to take all of us coming together, both sides. It's going to take it's going to take policy changes. It won't be done through just people's behavioral patterns. Things will help, like, turning off the water and recycling, but really what's going to help changing things are going to be policy changes. So having these youth climate activists on this Climate 911 Youth Reports, which you'll have to go to earthxtv.org and watch. We've got just some really spirited, great conversations with these young leaders that are interviewing these policymakers and these politicians and asking exactly what they're going to do in these different areas. So I encourage you to watch EarthX TV, and we'd love to have all of you involved. When you go on earthx.org, you can look. There's different places you can be a volunteer. You can join the league. You can be a young advocate. So we've got lots of things if you go to the website there. But we would love to have all of y'all engaged in the conversation around science, sustainability, environmentalism, and climate change. So thank you.
Maybe we can have each of the four of you just very quickly tell us, how's your job interesting to you? I think we all agree with you now. Your jobs are important. But, when you get in the morning and you're just, tired, maybe you didn't sleep well, what is it about your job that really gets you motivated? What do you find interesting? Because you're human, right? Not every single day is the most exciting day in the world. Why don't we start with you?
You said me, Koshi?
Yes. Yes, Deepali.
I am surrounded by food. What's there not to love? It's amazing. The other day we were even thinking about what chips could pair best with wine. Oh my God, that was the best after 5 p.m. meeting we had in a long time. So yes, I'm surrounded by food. I can taste what I do, so all of that is good. But I gotta tell you, I've been there for 12 years. My favorite thing to do now, because I'm not quite doing the engineering and developing chip flavors myself, what I am doing is preparing the next generation of females and males and people who are way, way smarter than me. How do I get them in the company, and how do I prepare them to be the best leaders they can be? So talent development is what gets me going, well, other than the food, of course.
Thanks, Deepali. Anyone else have anything to share about how you find your jobs interesting in response to this question?
Yeah, I love, it has actually been a wonderful place to go into a story in the middle of COVID. I have a place I can escape in my imagination. But I wake up every morning, and when I'm doing these climate disaster books, I have so much I have to find out. So this one that I'm doing is a near future climate disaster book in rural Kansas and Nebraska. I have just been finding out so much about pivot irrigation. Those big circles you see when you fly across the United States, those are from pivot irrigation. And I didn't realize that they actually send pesticide out through those arms. They do all sorts of things through those arms. That just kind of blew my mind the day I studied pivot irrigation. And my kids are eco-warriors, so I'm finding out a lot about pumping stations and natural gas. And I'm loving the research. I'm finding out all sorts of cool things about wind turbine and wind energy. The people who climb those towers, they're crazy. A lot of them are climbers, because to service them, they've got to be comfortable being, 300 feet above the ground. So I know every day when I go to work, I'm going to find out something new, and that's wonderful.
Thank you so much for that. Does anyone else have anything that they'd like to add?
Actually, I'll go. I wake up and I have the real privilege of working in this organization that when I wake up in the morning, it's always going to be diverse and challenging. You never know what's coming. So that's, kind of exciting. But I always think about the end goal and the girls that we're serving in our network. Our girls are coming with not the resources, not the background, not the family support that most of us have had. And to watch and to really be part of taking these girls, our schools are 6th through 12th grade, and seeing them in 6th grade be shy, be insecure, come with a million different challenges. And then by the time they're graduating in 12th grade, they're strong, they're empowered, they're going to college, they've got full scholarships to really fantastic places across the United States. It's life-changing work, and it's just it's amazing. So I get up thinking about them and what do I have to do to keep things strong so that they're the best they can be and that we're supporting them in the way they need to be supported.
Thank you so much. I'm going to, Mamta, did you have something to add?
I was going to say, I think for me,
yes,
it's about relationships, and I love going to work. I have a great team of people that work with me. And I'm building relationships not just within my, little UT Southwestern, but it's also outside of, because we're collaborating with teams all around the nation and the world. And so I think it's building those relationships and meeting new people virtually. That's exciting. And I think that's what keeps things interesting and for me.